Enough is a feast. You see, because the God that I serve sent his son to this earth in a way that resembles even those of us who feel to be the very least. He died on the cross, but he also resurrected that third day to establish a life with our Father far beyond the point we've been deceased. And although we no longer have Jesus with us on this earth physically, something miraculous happened on that third day when the third part of the Trinity was released to serve as our comforter, counselor, guide. His presence became the very existence of our peace, piecing together the good and the bad to establish a hope for our future and making it more prosperous than the past we've already had. He uses all of our experience as the perfect strategy to push us forward, allowing it to become the perfect launching pad. But it's so sad how we all, like sheep, have gone astray, trying to search for something to fill us up and give us our next fix. So we turn a deaf ear to the shepherd's voice as he so desperately chases us, trying to get us back on script. But we fall prey to our fleshly desires, chasing a happiness that doesn't even exist in the midst of Satan's lies and all of his tricks. And that facade that we continuously put on every Sunday morning as if all is well is the very thing holding us hostage and keeping us lost in that mix. Which is probably why we try so hard to hold on so tight to everything and anything that gets close to us. Because we're hoping deep down inside that by doing so, something significant would actually stick. But that pic that the enemy depicts is nothing more than a false pretense, misguiding our appetite, distracting us from the poison and the illness that his junk food continuously inflicts. But enough is a feast. You see, because my shepherd would feed even those of you who feel too insignificant to sit at his table. Because he doesn't care about your background or where you came from. He proves it to you by he himself being the ultimate example, being born in a stable. Because he doesn't care about your status or your condition. He wants to prove it to you by meeting you exactly where you are, simply because it pleases him to show you that he is able and willing to be the most constant thing in your life when everything else may seem to be unstable. He erases everything the world tries to place on you as a label, protecting you, making you lie down in green pastures to give you the type of peaceful rest that a baby feels when he's placed in his cradle, blocking any attacks from coming your way that was designed to stop your purpose with the intent of it being fatal. Because the enemy wants to kill you. Because he can't stand that God's love for you is not separated by your multiple failures. And yet he was casted out of heaven the instant he committed just that one betrayal. Which is why my shepherd wants to lead you beside quiet waters, so that none of that would place a fear of drowning in you as you rightfully take your place as his sons and his daughters, living a life with nothing to lack and wanting nothing more than for his presence to be the fulfillment when your own abilities begin to slack, paralyzing you in place when you feel that he is distant, not being able to move until you sense that he is back. My shepherd's voice is that one thing you'll need to stay on track. Because enough is a feast. You see, enough is a feast. Because my shepherd doesn't just have a name. Psalms 23 verse 1 and 2 uses multiple ones to explain that he's not the type of God that can be tamed in a box of just one name. Trying to do so would drive us crazy and even sound insane, because in the simplest form, he is the great I am, as he so self-proclaimed. But Psalms 23 adds that he is Jehovah Rohi, my shepherd, Jehovah Jireh, my provider, Jehovah Shalom, my Prince of Peace. But even with all of these names, it still doesn't do him justice at the very least. You see, because my shepherd is the source of all that was, of all that is, and of all that is to come. Nothing came before him, nothing stands with him, and nothing will come after him. He is the Alpha, he is the Omega. He is the very definition of a contradiction, but only because our simple minds cannot comprehend all of the power under his jurisdiction. Because our simple minds cannot understand all of the power under his jurisdiction. You see, the reason I lack nothing is because my shepherd is everything. That is why my peace has a name. My hope has a name. My salvation has a name. And that name is Jesus Christ. Because he doesn't just give you love, he is love. He doesn't just give you power, he is power. He doesn't just give you a solution. Man, my God is the solution. Power is the source of the entire universe, and yet the entire universe succumbs to his force. So what am I trying to tell you, plain and simple? All you need is God, the ultimate source, because he's indescribable, unimaginable, omnipotent, supernatural. Longing for that source should be the only thing desirable, and yet he falls back and waits for you to hear his voice that may not be audible, but you'll know that it's him, because my shepherd's voice is incomparable, yet relatable to exactly what you're going through. So I invite you this morning to join us, to be still, and join us in this journey of following the almighty shepherd who is so desperately waiting to place you in his will. You see, because my shepherd is Jesus, and Jesus is enough, and enough is a feast.
All of our locations, and yes, thanks for being here at the Block Church today. Starting a brand new teaching series called Enough is a Feast. We'll be in this for the next 5 weeks. And over the next 5 weeks, we'll just be walking through Psalm 23, beautiful psalm. And I hope you join us. My goal is for everybody to make 4 out of 5. That's my goal this month, 4 out of 5. And if you can do that, I believe your life will be richly blessed. That's my encouragement to you. We're going to dive in today. Again, I'll walk through Psalm 23. And I was thinking about the idea of enough being a feast. Anyone ever heard that phrase before? Anybody? All right, good. Well, my wife, she is Italian. Do I have any Italians in the house? Okay. And with my wife being Italian, she has nightmares that we will never have enough food. Okay. I mean, just nightmares. We'll wake up in the middle of the night afraid that we're not going to have enough food. And anyway, I remember recently we had a Super Bowl party, and she was so freaked out, she kept hitting me up all week long. Please text everyone to bring food. I don't think we're going to have enough. I don't think we're going to have enough. I don't think we're going to have enough. And by the end of it, we get to the Super Bowl party, and we had so much food, we had leftovers for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And so I just think it's like my wife to be like that regarding food, but I think it's like us as believers sometimes to think that there's not going to be enough. Like, we think that God can't handle it and there's not going to be enough. And I think it's tragic for us to forget that he is the God who owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. You understand what I'm saying? Like we serve an unlimited God. And for us to live with this fear of lack as believers, it leaves us missing all that God has for us. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. But so quickly, I jump to the mindset that there won't be enough provision, enough life, enough hope, enough future, enough freedom, enough for my kids, enough for my future. All the things I'm afraid all the time. Why do I live in fear? And I think that David had this similar problem. And that's really the context of Psalm 23. He's older at this point in his life. He's older in his journey. And in the midst of him being older, he learned some things. How many know that hindsight's 20/20? Okay, hindsight is 20/20. And so when we get to the other side, sometimes we realize that it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. It wasn't as hard as maybe we thought it was, or it was hard, but you're even glad you went through it. And chronologically, we don't know if Psalm 22 is actually right before Psalm 23. We don't know exactly, but in Psalm 22, David is freaking out. He's afraid of his enemies. He's literally afraid that someone's going to cut his throat. That's the language he uses in Psalm 22. And then he's freaking out on Psalm 22, and then he gets to Psalm 23, and he's like, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, I sit behind waters, I'm relaxing, I'm chilling out, God's good, all the things. Isn't it interesting that in one chapter of the Bible, you can be freaking out, but in the next chapter, you can be still and chill? And I don't know about you, but I'm the same way. At one moment in my life, I can be freaking out like I am right now inside. All right. And then later on, I'll be relaxing and thinking, oh, it wasn't that bad. Right? Like it's just like it's like hindsight's 2020. Now I understand that the weight at which he's facing in 22 is different than what he's facing in 23. But when you're in the moment of difficulty and pain and trouble and trial, it feels like the world's ending. Right? When you got to pay the bills and you don't have enough in the account, like next week, how God worked it out, it doesn't really regulate and calculate what you're going through right in this moment. Right? And so here's David. He's matured. He's got to the other side. He's resting. He's relaxing. He's at peace. And that's really where I want to get you over the next several weeks, is to be at peace. How many could use some peace in your life? So let me make this caveat. Okay, I'm as much on this journey of trying to rest in the peace of God as you are. Some of you probably got more peace than I do, okay? Okay, for real. Like, I'm on this journey with you, and that's why I want to dive into this text, because I need the peace of God and the rest of God. Next week, I'm going to be talking about anxiety. How many could use a word from God around that? Okay, yeah. So if you miss next week, you don't want to get healed, okay? All right. So I want to encourage you, next week we'll be talking about anxiety. Okay, let's dive in. Psalm 23, verse 1. The title of my message today is There's Plenty Here. There's plenty here. Psalm 23, let me take the first part of this, and I'm just going to take this one verse, explain really what it means for God to be our shepherd. That's what I'm going to do for this particular week, and then we'll dive into the rest of it as the weeks go. But the Lord is my shepherd. That's the first part. Psalm 23, verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd. Isn't that beautiful? What does that mean? Well, shepherd was a royal metaphor in the ancient Near East. Therefore, to call God shepherd is to acknowledge God as one who rules over one's life, to surrender to the will of God. The name shepherd was given to kings, okay? It was given to kings as well as who were commanders of battles. That's what shepherd means. I would say the Lord as my shepherd acknowledges that he isn't just God, but my leader, my commander-in-chief, my king, and my very personal God. That's what that means. He's my shepherd and acknowledges that he isn't just God, he's my leader, my commander-in-chief, my king, and my personal God. I want to break that down for a few moments. Isaiah 40, verse 11. He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will carry the lambs in his arms, holding them close to his heart. He will gently lead the mother sheep with their young. God as our leader, God as our shepherd, he isn't just a shepherd of sheep, but he's also a shepherd of sheep who leads sheep. Do you have anybody in your life that you're leading? Maybe it's a son or a daughter. Maybe now that you're older, maybe you're leading your parents, even though they don't want to acknowledge it. Maybe it's coworkers. Maybe it's your spouse. What I'm saying is today, if you are a leader, he's still the leader of leaders. And in your spheres of influence, God is still the leader of leaders. And for me as a pastor, I would say, and I've heard this many times, that every pastor needs a pastor. Right? And so what I'm saying is, in your life, you still need a leader. And if the Lord is your shepherd, he's also your leader. What makes a great leader? A leader is someone that we can trust, someone that gives vision, that stirs our heart, that gives us a mission and a purpose. We have that in the Great Commission. God has given us a mission. He's our shepherd and our leader because he does just that. He inspires us with mission that touches our hearts, and great leaders help us carry our burdens. But listen, they don't do all the work for us. They teach us how to do it. And God as our leader and as our shepherd, he's teaching us and he's walking with us to help us walk. He prods us gently but pushes us further than we would go on our own. You know that you're under a great leader when an individual would push you further than you would go on your own. That's what we have in God. He's pushing us. He's gently, hey, you can do better. You can go further. You can go longer. There's more for you in this life. And that's what we have as God, as our leader. I also would say that we have a commander-in-chief as a shepherd. A commander-in-chief. Now, what does that mean, a commander-in-chief? When you think of commander-in-chief, you might think of a president or a commander in the military. But let me paint a picture. The good shepherd is leading the charge when I'm under attack, or when I need to go on the attack. He is my defense, he's my armor, he's my sling and stone, my sword, my training, and the instruction in my ear to duck, jump, retreat, or run. If you think about David, this is a picture. David understands what it means, what it means for God to be a shepherd, because David was a shepherd. And so, if you think about the metaphor here, David was, before he was knocking out giants, he was taking care of lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. No, before he stood up to Goliath, he was faithful with some sheep in his father's field. And so David was a commander-in-chief before he was ever a commander-in-chief. And so the picture of a shepherd being your commander-in-chief is that when there is raging war against your life and against your soul, there is someone there to defend you and fight for you and teach you how to fight. Teach you how to gather in groups and retreat together. See, too many Christians live defending an attack. But God's not just our defender, he's also our proactive commander, helping us take ground over a very afraid enemy. You know that when you're faced with an animal, if you've ever, I don't ever put myself in that position. I don't necessarily like animals, or God bless you if you do. That's not what I mean. But did you know that most animals that encounter humans are more afraid than humans are? And the thing is here's what I believe. When a believer knows who his shepherd is, the enemy is more afraid of you than you are of him. And even though we stand and we might shake and be worried, we know that the God of the universe is on our side. Therefore, what and why should I fear? My commander is here. And so the picture of the shepherd, he's not just our leader, but he is our commander-in-chief, speaking to us. Duck, run, go, retreat, fight. I'm here with you even to the end of the age. He's our king. He's not just our leader as a shepherd. He's not just our commander. He's also our king. Revelation 19:16. On his robe and on his thigh, he has the name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In other words, my life is not my own. I'm alleged to the shepherd king. The pressure is off. This is his kingdom, and I am subject. I'm gladly serving his majesty and glory, his church, his family, his resources, his property, his kids, his choice, and I get to serve in his great kingdom. I get to serve in his great kingdom. He is my king. I think that it's important, one of the points that I wanted to make, but I thought it would be too much to explain, but essentially, I am property that is being managed and owned by someone who cares deeply for his property. I see the picture of a king as someone who is a homeowner. It's a lot different when you rent than it is when you own. God is not renting you. He is caring deeply for you because you matter. You are a picture. Listen, you are a picture. You are a representation of him on the earth. So when someone comes to my house, my wife begins to freak out because every speck must be removed. Right? Because oftentimes we see our home as a picture, right? As a picture of who we are, as a presentation. And what I'm saying is, as God works on you, he's not working on you and pressing you and crushing you because he's embarrassed of you. He's making you into everything that you're meant to be. This is a picture of his glory. You are a picture of him, his glory on earth. So he's not just as a shepherd, my leader, my commander-in-chief, my king, but he's also my personal God. John 10:14. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. God, my shepherd, knows me, and I am valuable to him. I have something to offer. I am creatively designed, and I have a unique purpose to exist within a community of sheep that makes a difference. God knows me. Listen to me. God creatively designed me. I'm not a mistake. There are mistakes that I've made, but I am not in of myself a mistake. I'm not defined by my mistakes or the things that are wrong with me. God will use the things that are, quote unquote, wrong with me for my good and His glory. He's a personal God who knows my struggle, knows my pain, knows my fear. We'll dive more into that next week, but for those of us who struggle with mental illness or anxiety, who at times lay in our bed and cannot get up because of fear, because of depression, because of darkness, I'm not a mistake. You're not a mistake. He's a personal God that's with you in the pain and that wants to put you by His still waters. He's our shepherd king. He's a personal God. Whatever you're going through, He's a personal God. And Jesus has been afflicted so that we would not be able to look at Him and go, okay, I don't identify with Him. Know that because we can now identify with Him who has been afflicted. The cross is a picture that we're not alone, that He's with us. The second part of Psalm 23, I lack nothing. I lack nothing. So He's my shepherd, but then David goes on to say, I lack nothing. After the metaphorical statement, the Lord is my shepherd, verse 1b, the second part, it adds the unqualified phrase, I shall not want, which could also be rendered, I have no lack. The absolute character of this second phrase, it's striking. Here's why. It suggests that I am fully connected, I'm fully supplied, I'm equipped, and I'm provided for. In other words, listen to this. I am a son and I'm a daughter. And I have all I want of God. I'm granted access into every room in His house, and I have all I need in the moment that I need it. So I want to break this down. I lack nothing. I lack nothing. I am a son and daughter, and I have all I want of God. I think about my son and my new relationship as a parent. And there are a lot of things that my son wants, and he knows what he wants in the moment. You know what I'm saying? He wants that 45th snack of the day, and he is convinced and almost has convinced me that he needs it. He has this obsession with the movie Coco. Okay? I mean, obsessed with it. I just don't get it. It's like this kid's got like skeletons painted, and my 18-month likes the movie. And the thing is like, I want to make him happy. Okay, I really want to make him happy. As a parent, you know that there's nothing like when your child smiles. But I got to remember that I'm not here just to please him. Okay, he's here to do chores and serve me. No, I'm just kidding. He's here to take the dog out, to honor me. No, I'm not here just to please him. I'm not here because he's not my friend, he's my son. And the thing is I think I want to give him what he wants, but I understand if I only gave him what he wanted, it would not be good for him. Some of us, the healing and the stuff that we think that we should get, did you know that if you got what you wanted, it might push you far outside the care of God? I know that sounds harsh, and we probably would need more context for that. But sometimes even in our affliction, it's better for us to stay in the midst of that because God's trying to teach us something and use it. I'm trying to bless somebody else. And so even in the midst of my son not getting what he wants, I recognize that me being a good parent is focused on giving him what he needs more than what he wants, and creating an atmosphere and an environment in which he's wanting what he needs. In other words, son, enough is a feast. Enough is good enough. But we're tempted to cop attitudes and whine like babies when we don't get what we want immediately. The thing is we don't always get all we want from God, but we do have all we want of God. It's our choice. The thing is like if my son wants to read a book, I'm there. If he wants to play outside, I'm there. If he wants to do some activity that's going to stimulate his mind and his growth, he can have as much of that as he wants. But there's a limit to the TV, there's a limit to the snacks, and there's a limit to certain things. And what some of us need to understand in our journey with God is there needs to be a limit to certain things, because otherwise you won't even want the true form of God, just the stuff from God. So when I say that I have all I need, I have no lack, it's the truth. In God, I have all I need. But I've got to focus on what I need, which is enough. I'm granted access to every room, every room. I love what Psalm 16:5 says. It says, my choice is you, God, first and only. And now I find I'm your choice. You set me up with a house and a yard, and then you made me your heir. Love that. Listen to this. In each house, each room has a different purpose. Some rooms for sleep, others for play, others for relaxation, others for work. We have access. Listen, we have access to all the complexities, powers, and opportunities God offers us. We are His children, and it is ours today. Healing, freedom, victory, wisdom, peace, rest, resource, His voice, favor. Now, sometimes these things come in different packages and timings, but we have access to every room that God provides. See, when God is enough for us, it means I'm a son and I'm a daughter. It means I'm granted access to every room. And it means I have all I need at the moment I need it. And that's attention. Because I hate that line, actually. Because I'm provided for and I'm protected from and I'm well fed and I'm insured, but it's not my timetable, it's His. God is smarter than me. And as much as I want to demand, God always comes through when I need Him to come through. If you look back at your life, and that's what David's doing in this passage, he's looking back at his life. He's mature now, he's older now, he's built things, he's won battles, he's made mistakes. And what he's saying as he looks back on his life, and he's looking at his legacy, he's recognizing God always came through when I needed Him. I shouldn't have jumped over Him or rushed the process. And the question today is do you trust that God is all you need? Or are you constantly jumping over Him and getting ahead of Him and rushing Him when God is working on this beautiful painting and this beautiful picture that is your life? But if you skip the steps, you're going to look deformed. It's not going to be complete. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all I need. He's my shepherd. He's my leader. He's my commander. He's my king. He is all I need. He supplies. He's all that I need. Do we trust that? I love what Matthew 18:12 says. It says, what do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? Isn't that beautiful? Can I have your attention for just another couple moments, and I'm almost done? When I was young, I was in 4th grade, maybe going into 5th grade. I was at a Christian school, summer camp. My parents worked during the day. And so I went to this Christian school summer camp. Now, later on in life, I got kicked out of the Christian school. That's another sermon for another day of God's redemptive power. Hallelujah. I'll show them I'm up here preaching, okay? Kicked me out of the Christian school. But at the summer school, I mean, remember, we're in 4th grade. There was this crazy teacher, because sometimes there's weird Christians. And he kept showing us this movie called Left Behind. Anybody ever seen it? Now, you probably had to be a Christian for a minute, and if you're new in your faith or new to Christ, you know, the text of the movie was the end of the world, that Jesus was coming to take his church, to rapture us up. And maybe I'll teach on that at another time or in a small group. But for a fourth grader, the end of the world movies, maybe not the best choice. Maybe let's teach us about the love of God, So he would freak us out. And so it freaked me out because, like, every day we were watching, like, Left Behind 1, 2, 3, 4, and they just never stopped. There was like 100 versions of them. And you know the song at the end, maybe you don't, but it was like, I wish we'd all been ready. You ever heard that? Even now, it haunts me. And I used to hate the movie because I would I'd go to the bathroom and I'd call my parents at the office, because you remember how you used to memorize phone numbers? I can still remember my mom's work 1-800 number. I called it, I knew it. And I just making sure they were there. And my main concern, also I loved my parents, but I was concerned about the food situation. Like, who's going to feed me? If I got left, I'm going to be hungry. I ain't married yet. I'm in fourth grade. I don't even have a girlfriend at this point. I'm in trouble. So I remember I started to devise this plan to save my Cooler Ranch Doritos. This is before, man, they went off the deep end with all these different versions. Cooler Ranch was the thing. And I was thinking, man, I've got to preserve this stuff just in case. This is true. A little bit later on, stay with me, a little bit later on, I saw this picture in this child's book of Jesus reaching over the edge of a mountain. And he has this staff in his hand, and you can see him leaning, and you can see both hands, one with the staff pulling this sheep that is over the edge about to fall off, and his legs are dangling. And you see Jesus pulling the sheep with one hand and rescuing him with the other. And I just kept looking at that passage going, I think that's me. I think I'm the sheep that's dangling over the edge, and I kind of feel alone right now. But you know what it reminded me of is I'm not left behind. I'm not too far gone. I'm just thinking this as a little kid, that's my Jesus. That's my shepherd king. That's my Savior reaching out to me. This picture that's stuck in my head. And when we sing that song, the reckless love of God, that's the picture I have is God looking back and going, okay, I've got a bunch of sheep right here, but somebody's important to me. Somebody matters to me. Somebody I love is dangling over there. So I know that I can do two things at once because he is the Son of God. He is God, right? He created the earth and he made man and he preached and he fed and he raised from the dead. God can do two things at once. Aren't you grateful for that? And so as he cares for the 99 and he goes, hang tight, I'm God, I got this. I'm going to reach over and reach out to somebody who's far away, who's long gone, who's dangling over the edge, and I've got a staff in my hand, and I've got my love in the other hand, and I will pull you up if you just look for me. When you're sinking deep, I'll pull you up. When you're falling away, I'll pull you up. You don't have to be afraid. You're not alone, and you're surely not left behind. I am God. I'm yours. I'm a personal God, and I know your name. God knows your name today. And listen to me. This is not rhetoric. This is not a political speech. This is the truth that God knows your name today. And you came here today, wherever you are, and we all carry something. And maybe what we carry has actually been the thing that pushed us over the edge. And what God's saying is just let it go, let it fall. You got to, let me have your hands today. Let me transform you today. You are the one. And if you're here today and you're wondering if God loves you or if your weight's too much, I just want you to know, yes, it's true. God loves you. He's not leaving you behind. He's reaching out. Will you reach out and touch him today? Can you stand to your feet everywhere? Can you bow your head and close your eyes?